Hello and welcome to the Friday edition of the award-winning RotoWire Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by our very good friends at Dabble. It is Friday, February 6th, with my good friend Kirien Sprecher.
How's it going, folks?
And I am Ken K-Train Kreitz. All aboard! Look, today's format, we're diving into trade deadline news. Then we're going to answer your questions. Then we'll make our waiver wire suggestions, 8 of them, and then with the usual silliness. Alex and Shannon, as you can tell, can't make it today. Thank goodness Kirien has agreed to join us. Kirien, tell us, before we dive into trade deadline stuff, tell us about some news in Lakerland.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure the folks on the loyal listeners to the Friday pod, if you guys listen to any of the other shows, are well aware that I've been all over the podcast this week with Alex on vacation. Hopefully, he's enjoying that cold weather in Florida this week. But yeah, so busy trade deadline, like you said. But the biggest news from yesterday was Luka Doncic going down with a hamstring injury, needed an MRI. Did not return for the second half. Rui Hachimura started the second half. But that's he's going to get the MRI today. A big injury, obviously. But the other flip side of this for the Lakers is Austin Reeves. Had a huge game and seems to be back after that big time injury, the long-term injury that he had. So seems like a plus and a minus last night for the Lakers. We'll keep all our attention on this. Moving forward, the trade deadline just happened, Kirien. Come on, get over that. The All-Star break is coming up, and so maybe the Lakers play it pretty safe here with Luka, give him some extra time to rest. But since we don't really know much about that Luka trade, let's just get into yesterday's moves. What was the first trade that happened yesterday, Ken?
Yeah, things started Thursday morning with Ayo Dosunmu, shockingly, at least shocking to me, being dealt from Chicago to Minnesota for 4 second-round picks plus a swap of deep reserves. Ayo was playing well for Chicago. In his last 6 games, almost 20 points, over 5 rebounds, almost 5 dimes per contest while shooting 54% from the field. And I've always liked his defense. Kirien, the Bulls have added 9 second-round picks over this last week per Bobby Marks of ESPN.
It's kind of crazy.
What do you think of this deal?
I did not like this deal. I thought the Bulls were going to extend Dosunmu. If Patrick Williams is worth $18 million a year, then Ayo Dosunmu, it can be worth maybe $20 million a year. I understand wanting to unload Dosunmu when his price was the highest. But this is a Chicago kid, and like you said, he was really a key part of what the Bulls, or seemingly seemed like a key part of what the Bulls were doing this year. They get rid of
Chicago
Dosunmu.
Kid, Illinois product, drafted by them, part of their culture, strong defender. I get that he's 26 and going into his free agent summer, but this is what bad teams do, is they just keep constant turnover and don't appreciate what they have.
And I've been, begging the Bulls to make moves recently, most notably getting rid of Vucevic, what they also did at this trade deadline. But getting rid of a young player that is ascending is not the moves that I was looking for in this situation. You trade the guys that are on the decline here. But then they brought in all of these guards. Anthony Simons, Jaden Ivey had a good game in his debut last night. Colin Sexton's yet to debut. So like you said, a lot of turnover for the Bulls here.
The absurd quantity of Bulls is comical and something we'll get into later. But Kirien, after the Ayo news, we had some news in Lakerland.
Yeah, the Lakers made a swap for another sharpshooter. JJ Redick is getting yet another shooter onto the roster, trading Gabe Vincent and a second rounder to Atlanta for Luke Kennard. Lakers needed this outside shooting. Kennard has been really good from deep throughout his career. We'll see what Vincent's future looks like in Atlanta. Maybe he gets bought out. Maybe he joins a contender here. But the Lakers needed some offensive help. And, with Luka maybe going down a little bit, Kennard has a line here for increased opportunities in LA.
Absolutely. You never have too much shooting. Kennard in Atlanta this year, I butchered the notes. I apologize, but he's been shooting almost 50% from behind the arc. That's pretty darn good. I don't know a team that couldn't use that. Atlanta's better at hiding his defensive problems than maybe this Laker lineup will be. But if you can add a 50% free, 3-point shooter, that's kind of a no-brainer. And the day progressed. The Bucks announced. Did you feel good about this, Kirien? That the Bucks announced they're going to keep Giannis at least until this summer and focus on smaller scale trades. And boy, did they make a small scale trade when they swapped Cole Anthony and Amir Coffey to Phoenix. Phoenix then sent out Nick Richards, who eventually wound up in Chicago, whereas Manny Dieng goes to your Bucks. Make sense of this for me, Kirien, please.
The small time trade doesn't really make any sense to me. Maybe Dieng has some upside. He scored 20 points on the Bucks last year or something. So maybe the front office was just like, oh, this is a talented young kid. Let's get him. OKC may have been up to something here. I don't really understand what Phoenix and Milwaukee were doing here. Amir Coffey and Cole Anthony are kind of bouncing around the league now. Offensive first guys that just don't have enough defensive chops to really stick around. Nick Richards to Chicago, maybe that hurts Jalen Smith's fantasy value a little bit. But other than that, I don't really see much fantasy fallout here. The Giannis situation, I feel like that was expected that they weren't going to move him here. I've been saying this for a while. The desperate teams at the deadline, Golden State, Miami, New York, Minnesota, they just weren't going to be able to put together a package that was enticing enough to take Giannis away from Milwaukee. And I feel like Milwaukee understands that teams that have the best trade packages available for Giannis are the Thunder, the Rockets, and the Spurs. And what you do is you just wait. Two of those teams are going to have a disappointing playoff run, right, Ken? And you just wait for those two teams to have a disappointing playoff run, and then you take advantage and you say, hey, what's going to get you over the hump against whichever team did make it to the finals? This guy. Give us Stephon Castle. Give us Dylan Harper. Give us Tari Eason.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I think the Bucks made the right move not trading him now, but they should trade him in the offseason. I'm worried about all of this talk about, we're going to buy in the offseason. Don't do Miles Turner 2.0. That's a bad decision. But like you said,
don't
Giannis,
Miles Turner 2.0. Yeah, exactly.
Giannis getting traded, not getting traded, and Ja Morant not getting traded, Domantas Sabonis not getting traded was probably the biggest news of yesterday. But the biggest trade that happened, right, was the Pacers and the Clippers connecting to send Ivica Zubac to Indiana in exchange for Benedict Mathurin, Isaiah Jackson, and a second-round pick, and a couple of picks here. This trade, is a sign that Indiana believes that they can get back to the finals when Tyrese Halliburton is healthy next year, right? So that's a big step forward for the future of the Pacers franchise. As what's going to happen in the short term, we're a little unclear. The Zubac is not a guy that likes to rest or take time off, but the Pacers have no incentive to win games this year. So they're going to want, to sit Zubac. We'll see if he actually does that. He has a couple years left on his contract. And the going back to the Clippers, the Clippers traded Harden and Zubac now, but they kept Kawhi. I heard a lot of rumors about teams around the league not wanting to go after Kawhi this deadline because they were worried that this aspiration thing could lead to him being suspended for whichever team he gets traded for. So the Clippers do all the dirty work. And then if he gets traded to whatever team, then that team has to deal with that. Fantasy fallout from this trade. I think the biggest winners were on the Indiana side, Jarris Walker. Now, Zubac, like I said, probably will rest. So Jarris Walker has a clear path to center minutes again with Jay Huff. They're kind of splitting time there. And with no Benedict Mathurin, now there's an opening on the wing too. In LA, Isaiah Jackson may push Brook Lopez for the starting job, but Yannick Conan Niederhauser is a name to watch, Ken. That's a not even on our long shot list yet, but this is a kid that's super active, similar to Dylan Cardwell.
Well.
Yeah. Similar to Dylan Cardwell in Sacramento, he can come in and just get a ton of rebounds if he does get an expended opportunity here. But yeah, obviously the biggest trade of the day, Zubac to Indiana for Benedict Mathurin.
I think if you're a Nebhard manager too, you're happy to see him not have to compete shots with Mathurin. I feel like Mathurin was always in Coach Carlisle's doghouse. Like even this year, he's coming off the bench a lot, even though they have arguably no starters. So probably, frankly, a good move all around. A little worried what this does to Jordan. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on his last name with the Clippers. Jordan
Miller.
The gentleman with the first name of Jordan.
Jordan
Miller.
Jordan
Thank
Miller.
you.
Jordan Miller
Jordan
and Kobe
Miller.
Sanders.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Because without James Harden and when
Kobe, I think anyone banking on.
Yeah, well, those two guys were getting extended opportunities with these injuries, and now Mathurin's going to come in and just absolutely chuck. I've been really high on Mathurin. When Tyrese got hurt in that Game 7 against the Thunder, he had 24 points, 13 rebounds, absolutely took over. From a fantasy perspective, a lot better in points leagues than category leagues, though. All right. I think we're having some technical difficulties here.
All right. Well, here, friends at Dabble, though, we might be having some technical problems. I can't even tell if anyone can hear me. Uh-oh. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay. I don't know what happened there. All right. Kirien, tell us about our good friends at Dabble, please, before we cut to fantasy.
Dabble isn't just another DSF app. It's the ultimate social platform where you can connect with other fantasy sports lovers. Dabble lets you win big. You can win up to 5,000 times your money this basketball season. Starting with Dabble is easy. New users get $25 free when signing up. No deposit necessary. Check out the link in the episode description below to download Dabble now. All right, let's get into some of these questions. I think Ken is back with us. I don't know which one of us is the one having the issues, but I'm just going to keep rolling here. Wemby says, hi, guys. Sorry for the spam. I have Pods, Keyshawn, Ivy, Eason, Jerome in my IL, Giddy, and PJ. In my IL, I have Giddy and PJ. Would you sell high on Jerome, and would you drop Keyshawn or any of the guys for Jarek Walker? I don't know if I'm going to be dropping Keyshawn George for Jarek Walker yet. And yes, I would probably try to sell high on Ty Jerome. He's a little banged up now. And like we said, the Ja Morant news did not get traded. So we'll see where that goes. And it's a calf injury for Jerome. So that's, what he was dealing with previously. It's a calf injury is definitely a red flag in fantasy circles nowadays. And because of what's happening just with calf injuries. And the other thing is it's the first night of a back-to-back, so maybe he's just resting there. But yeah, I would try to sell high on Jerome. Maybe he can see extended minutes, but his production right now has just really been out of control. Wemby also says, I take Ivy over Scoot. Would you do that? That's a good question. I would probably take Ivy over Scoot Henderson. Henderson's clear to make his debut. Ivy was pretty good in his, return in his Bulls debut, but we'll see what Scoot Henderson looks like with the Trailblazers. There's just a lot of mouths to feed right now, and I feel like they're going to have kid gloves with Scoot while the Bulls have some incentive to give him a long runway. Ken, how are we doing? You back?
I think I'm back. I'll try to introduce another question. Sorry about that.
No
let's try this one, Kirien. Will Ayton bounce back? DeAndre Ayton, someone rage dropped him, which I could absolutely understand. Your thoughts rest of season on DeAndre Ayton in Lakerland?
DeAndre Ayton is absolutely one of those guys that is going to get rage dropped in some leagues, and I'm going to always advocate for picking him up. The bad games are extremely frustrating. Only 20 minutes last night, only 2 fouls, so it wasn't like he was in foul trouble. But this type of double production is not available everywhere. I know sometimes guys like Maxime Reynaud or Cardwell or backup centers can become valuable in fantasy, but DeAndre Ayton has a solidified role. Jackson Hayes isn't going to come back from the suspension and, take the starting job from Ayton. There's going to be some games where he gets played out of the rotation because they go small or whatever, but DeAndre Ayton needs to be rostered in most fantasy leagues.
If there's anyone more frustrating than Ayton, it's Jackson Hayes. Neither play defense. I'm going to expand this question from Mr. Jones. Who's your preferred Champagne brother rest of season? Is it Julian in San Antonio or Justin in Washington?
Julian Champagne is definitely the one that I would prefer to hold. Harrison Barnes has kind of fallen off a cliff after a really, really strong start to the season. Now when the Spurs have been healthy, Champagne is starting over Harrison Barnes. Justin, probably not a hold. Will Riley is playing really well for Washington right now. And he's younger, and they also have a slew of other young guys that need minutes. When Trey Johnson comes back, that'll impact Justin Champagne even more. So I don't think Justin Champagne is a hold anymore.
I just don't expect to see any standard rotation in Washington. It's just going to keep moving around all rest of the season. All right, here's, I think, a question a lot of folks have, Kirien. Now that Kobe White, one of the few guards not in Chicago, has moved on to Charlotte, what's his rest of season value there?
Yeah, so this one was frustrating for me personally because I have Con Knipple and Brandon Miller in a lot of fantasy leagues, and I was like, "What's the point? Why?" And I also have Kobe White.
What is the point?
Yeah. So I think, and obviously the biggest news when we're talking about Kobe White right now is that since Charlotte has a plethora of scoring talent, they are going to give Kobe White some time to rest this lingering calf injury. He's going to be out through the All-Star break. Hopefully, he's 100% following the All-Star break. But I think he just slides into, a six-man role. Knipple is a great connector. Brandon Miller has evolved into an elite scorer. And, LaMelo is LaMelo, and he's the fulcrum of this offense. So I think Kobe White takes a huge hit here, but I also think, Charlotte can be one of the best offenses in the league. They have been one of the best offenses in the league during the recent winning streak. So I think Kobe White fits the offensive firepower that they want, but he's just not going to see the volume that he did in Chicago to make him an easy, top 75 fantasy player. So I would say he's a fringy top 100 guy when he comes back.
Yeah, I think, and then that might be generous. What are your thoughts on Christian Braun in Denver, Kirien?
I love Christian Braun. Obviously he's not the most prolific fantasy guy, and he's been, pretty limited since returning from that lengthy absence. But when you watch the Denver Nuggets play and you watch Jokic just find Christian Braun open on these cuts, they have great chemistry. The most encouraging thing here for Braun to me is, you look at the stats the last, month plus, and you're like, well, this guy's not worth rostering in fantasy. He hasn't scored in double digits. He's never gotten more than 5 rebounds, Kirien. What are you talking about? But he played 43 minutes against the Knicks a couple of days ago. If he's playing 35, that was a double overtime game, so, take that for what you will. But if he's playing 33 minutes, 34 minutes on a regular game, he's going to rack up stats left and right. He gets boards, he gets assists. He's a really efficient shooter because most of his baskets are just layups or dunks off of Jokic passes. So yeah, similar to I think he has an upside of a Josh Hart. It's just a matter of when that production comes. And like this James says, Peyton Watson's going to be out for a while, so there should be more opportunities when he's on the court.
Yeah, it looks like Watson's going to be out for 4 weeks with a grade 2 hamstring strain. That's in addition to the Aaron Gordon injury. So shots keep opening up for guys like Tim Hardaway Jr. and Christian Braun. Really, Braun this year, it's really just, is he healthy or not, right? Yeah. It's been such a slow, gradual return. Do we see any more? Oh, here's one. Just to tickle your former Milwaukee Bucks, Tommy Kirien. Thoughts on Brook Lopez now at the Clippers?
Oh man, this one is interesting. Like we said, talking about the trade, Isaiah Jackson comes over, right? So Isaiah Jackson, we got a couple of questions here about the Clippers. Which center? Brook Lopez is going to get the first crack. But when he has played extended minutes this season, he hasn't been
not
very
shot
effective.
well. He is not shot well. Yeah.
And that's where his value comes, right, Ken? He needs to make threes and block shots. And at this stage of his career, when he's not making threes, it hurts because he's not really getting off the floor on the other end of the court. So
it kind of looks like the Leaning Tower of Pisa out there.
Yeah,
It's like the Leaning Tower of Lopez.
Yes, I love it. I think he's worth a speculative ad, but I would be very quick to pick and choose between these Clipper centers. And like I said, Yannick is the long shot guy that I think will have the most value come silly season.
Okay, and pronounce his name once again.
Yannick Conan Niederhauser.
That's the value you bring to this podcast. Fantastic. All right. Well, do we see? I think that's it for fan feedback, which means it's time to get to. Oh, wait.
You might have missed someone when you were gone here, but there's a one about Kuminga. What do you guys think of Kuminga's potential in Atlanta? Okay. I talked about this a little bit with Adam King yesterday. He's going to be a backup. He's going to at least see the floor, which is better than he was in Golden State, right?
Right.
But Ricochet has not been good, so maybe there's an avenue for Kuminga outplaying Ricochet and getting a starting role or getting some production here. But I would be hesitant to pick up Kuminga and expect production right away. And then one more about
minor. I just feel like Kuminga will be minor. They're not giving up on Ricochet this early. No. Maybe they should, but they're not going to. And CJ McCollum, I'd rather have the ball in his hands making decisions than Kuminga.
Totally agree.
Oh, but there was another question you wanted to bang out there.
This Keegan Murray question. Keegan Murray was dropped. Should we pick him up, assuming he'll be back around the All-Star break? I don't want anything to do with anybody in Sacramento, Ken. I just don't see how that. I heard that they might sign Cam Thomas. You got Cam Thomas, Malik
that would
Monk.
be hysterical, but that would be the most Sacramento King thing to do.
Yes, absolutely.
To sign Cam Thomas and just have him and Monk get 40 minutes a game fighting over the ball.
Yeah, and then you still got Russell Westbrook in town. I don't know. I don't think you need to roster Keegan Murray at this point. Just because it's Sacramento's a mess. You don't want to deal with it.
Sidebar. When DeMar DeRozan said it was Keegan Murray's team, I was like, at least they're sort of acknowledging the need for some youth. Yeah. Though I don't think Keegan Murray should be option one anywhere, but at least, there's so many, they're so bad and they're so old and nobody plays defense. I'm a little shocked they didn't deal Sabonis just to start things over. Just admit you got to start things over. Because you're not getting any value for Westbrook, Levine. You're not moving any of those guys. Yeah. DeAndre Hunter. And he thought, what is Hunter going to do? Like, I
think Hunter's value is worse in Sacramento than it is in Cleveland because in Cleveland, like Darius Garland was hurt. Yeah. So he was it was Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley a little bit, Jalen Tyson, and DeAndre Hunter. Now he goes to Sacramento and it's DeMar DeRozan, Malik Monk, Zach LaVine, Russell Westbrook, Keegan Murray when he comes back. It doesn't make any sense.
I like how the Kings are like, a little worried this Nick Clifford guy might develop. Let's crush him with another veteran we don't want.
Yep. Nick Clifford, Keon Ellis, Devin Carter. Yeah. No youth gets any minutes.
Let's trade one of the rare. The Keon Ellis trade made no sense to me at all. Like just the fact that there were 6 teams that were like, yeah, I really want Keon Ellis, and the Kings were like, yeah, we got to get rid of this guy.
Yeah.
He's young and talented. That's a problem. But he plays defense. We gotta move this guy. What the heck?
Oh yeah. Sounds like the Bulls talking about Ayo Dosunmu.
It does. Okay, and with that, thank you, fans, for all those questions. With that, I think it's time to go to the meat of the pod, which is our waiver wire, our free agent pickup section. Because there's only 2 of us, we're gonna tweak our usual format. Where both Kirien and I are going to give 3 regular pickups, and then we're each going to end with 1 long shot. Let me also say, fans, if you like our videos, please hit like and subscribe below. I know Kirien has already done that. But let's bring up a name we talked about early in the pod. Jalen Smith center and sometime forward for the Chicago Bulls. He's managed in 27% of Yahoo leagues and only 16% of ESPN leagues. Look, Smith is arguably the only center in Chicago, though they did pick up Nick Richards just before the deadline. There's no future in Nick Richards. I don't know why they'd give him a lot of minutes, but they probably need a backup. Anyway, but back to Jalen Smith. They don't really have a true power forward either. As Modest Bizelis, he only averages just over 5 rebounds a game. That's a lot of boards available for Smith. Jalen Smith, over his last 12 games, he has delivered almost 14 points, over 8 rebounds, 1.2 steals and blocks, and 2.1 triples per contest while shooting a nice 53% from the field. And you know what? Those stats would have been better if he wasn't fighting a minor calf injury. Jalen Smith's 25 years old, so he sort of fits the timeline the Bulls are. I guess he fits it better than Ayo. So pick up Jalen Smith.
Absolutely. If you listen to Mike Barner or read anything that Mike Barner puts out, he's been all over Jalen Smith this season, even when Vucevic was still in town. So yeah, the Wednesday edition of the podcast with Mike Barner, all over Jalen Smith. And like you said, there's no future in Nick Richards, so that shouldn't take a lot of playing time away. And honestly, Jalen Smith can play the 4 and Richards can play the 5 if they really want to go big at times. My first waiver wire guy, I'm going to Saddiq Bey, forward for the New Orleans Pelicans. Thought there might be some trades out of New Orleans, maybe Trey Murphy, maybe Zion, maybe Herbert Jones. It was only Jose Alvarado that left, though. So this team is going to look pretty similar. I feel like Saddiq Bey, fun fact, Saddiq Bey was the first note that I ever wrote at Fantasy at RotoWire.
With the Pistons, probably, right?
Well, yep. Was Saddiq Bey is still pretty young, Ken. He's still a guy that
as are you, Kirien.
Well, we'll see. Turning 30 in a couple months here. Bey has been a star quietly for this Pelicans team. 20 points, 5 rebounds, 2.5 trays, shooting 47% from the field, 89% from the free throw line, over 32 minutes per game. He's not facing any competition. Zion hasn't really been sitting out games, but maybe they give him some rest here. Saddiq Bey has been a flawless fit on this New Orleans team, and I don't see that changing, and he should be rostered in a lot of leagues. He's
really their only true catch and shoot guy. Really, and can create his own shot if need be. But, Jones is got his worst field goal percentage of his career this year. They'd like him to be a 3-and-D guy, but he's just a D guy. Bey's got as many minutes as he wants. And frankly, side note, criminal, this team didn't trade Zion Williamson.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just criminal. The guy doesn't rebound when he is healthy. So what are you doing? But that's a topic for another day. That's an old man rant for another day. All right, I'm going to go to my second pick here, which is Daniel Gafford, center, surprisingly still with the Dallas Mavericks, managed in 21% of Yahoo leagues, 39% of ESPN leagues. Surprisingly not traded by the Mavericks. And then with this Anthony Davis deal to Washington, he now only has Marvin Bagley backing up at center. And I think we all know Bagley's terrible. Gafford has started the last 5 games as it looks like he's finally healthy. His last 3 games has averaged a double-double of 14 points, 11 rebounds, 2 blocks, and 1.3 steals. So Daniel Gafford's had a terribly inconsistent first half of the season, but I think he's locked in as their starting center the rest of the way. Side note, I'd also make sure Santi Aldama, the only center still in Memphis, make sure he isn't available. I know he is available in 58% of Yahoo leagues, so at least half of you should check if Aldama's out there. But I do like Daniel Gafford to be the solid big minute center for the Mavs.
Couldn't agree more. Definitely condone Gafford and Aldama as pickups. Obviously, the Mavericks might, not turn things around here. They're not going to turn things around here, but they might, turn in another direction with prioritizing youth. But they don't really have many young centers on this roster. So I think Gafford has the runway here. And like you said, the last 3 games, those were against Houston, Boston, and the Spurs. So 3 pretty good teams. So it wasn't like Gafford was taking advantage of, lesser competition at all. My next.
Well, and one last point too. PJ Washington's got some concussion issues, and if that lingers, that's even that many more rebound opportunities and put back inside points for Gafford.
Absolutely. My next waiver wire target is Kelly Oubre, a forward for the Philadelphia 76ers, rostered in 34% of leagues currently. Started the last 11 games, averaging 15 points, 4 boards, over 2 triples, nearly 50% from the field. More shots available because Jared McCain was traded to OKC, but the real big news here is Paul George is suspended for the next it's like 20 more games. So Kelly Oubre is going to continue starting and is going to continue seeing some usage. This Sixers team is good, Ken, but they love playing close games. And
close games play down to their competition.
Yes, absolutely. And they play up when they play good teams. Close games are what we need in fantasy because these blowouts, then guys sit and rest. There's been a lot of fantasy production in Philadelphia this season, and I think, along with Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe, Joel Embiid, I think Kelly Oubre can maintain fantasy value for the next couple of weeks.
And if you're kind of swapping out George for Dominic Barlow at power forward, by the way, congrats to Barlow for getting a standard contract. That was long overdue. But Dominic Barlow is a grinder in the paint. He is a do the dirty work, Kurt Rambis type, freeing up Oubre to rebound even less and shoot even more. So, the shots are there. If I'm Philly, personally, I'm like, Kelly, why don't you come off the bench? Because we have 2 amazing guards that should be the future of this team. But that's not how they see it. They're like, Kelly, go ahead and gun. Take too many shots. Play poor defense. Play down to your opponent. That'd be great. That's what he's doing. So I'm sorry, but I should get off my Kelly Oubre soapbox. I do like to make fun of the Sixers. My third pickup this week, and I'm sure his management numbers are skyrocketing, but Ty Jerome, guard of the Memphis Grizzlies, right now, as of Friday morning, managed in 34% of Yahoo leagues, 54% of ESPN. They gave him a rest night Thursday, so maybe he will have a chance to be available. But he's scoring option number 1 or 2 for this new terrible Memphis Grizzlies lineup. We don't know how long Morant will be out, which means monster minutes for Jerome. Jerome missed the first 46 games with a calf injury. That's why they rested him. That's why they're going to rest him tonight on Friday. Mm-hmm. You may remember Jerome came out of nowhere, played very well for the Cavaliers last year. In Jerome's 3 games for the Grizzlies, these stats are amazing over 20 minutes. Over 22 points, 7 dimes, 2.3 triples, 61% from the field. He just came off the injury list and just bang, was on fire. Anyway, this team's in tank mode. Jerome, Aldama, and Cedric Coward are going to get crazy run. Go get Ty Jerome.
Absolutely. I feel like the only pushback on Ty Jerome talk is, well, he can't keep producing this way in 20 minutes per night. But then the counter to that is, well, what happens when he gets 30 minutes a night, right?
Exactly.
Which should happen here eventually. Obviously, they're taking it pretty slow with him, like you mentioned, the rest night here. But, yeah, I'm all in on Ty Jerome. My next pickup is another guard, Isaiah Collier from Utah. Started 7 of Utah's last 13 games. Keontae George continues to be banged up. Trusting a Utah Jazz player is, a little hard to do at this point of the season. They might continue to go in and out of the rotation like Nurkic has, like George has, like Markkanen has. Collier has not been one of those players yet, and he hasn't been one, and he wasn't one of those players last year. Obviously, he was a king of fantasy season or silly season last year. When Collier gets the playing time, he is an assist juggernaut. If you need assists, definitely high priority, must roster player here. Rostered in only like 25% of leagues right now. I understand the hesitation and, this is only because Keontae George is out, but do we really trust the Jazz to play all of their key players the rest of the season? I'm not trusting that. So I'm picking up Collier and hopefully he's immune to the rest days down the stretch like he was last year.
He's also scoring with Cody Williams next to him. Williams is not blossoming into the rookie, into the young player Utah would like. And so, Collier scoring over 13 points a game in those over his last 13 games. That's not really scoring we expected from Collier, but it's been a nice bump. Enjoy the ride while you can. He's even shooting well. He's shooting 49%, over 49%. So that's a nice. I like that suggestion. My long shot, and we talked about it a lot in the news section, so maybe I won't berate on it, but Isaiah Jackson, now backup center for the LA Clippers with Zubac gone to Indiana. Look, Jackson's fighting 37-year-old Brook Lopez for the center spot, as well as two youngsters that Kirien knows better than I. Look, let's do the dream per 36 minutes. This is what Jackson did over 36 minutes with the Pacers. It was almost 14 points, 12 boards, 3.1 stocks with a great field goal percentage. He's worth a flyer. Well, and you know what? Give it at least a week because Lopez might have one good game, but then his knees might also implode.
Yeah, I said, I wasn't super excited about him, but he's at least worth a flyer here. Obviously, he had the big injury last year, the Achilles injury, I believe it was, and I was surprised that he was even able to play to start this season, let alone start for the Pacers. And then obviously that they went away from that pretty quickly with him struggling and then getting hurt again. But yeah, Isaiah Jackson definitely worth an ad because when he's had playing time in recent years too, he's a great per minute producer. And like you said, fighting with Brook Lopez for minutes. So that shouldn't be too hard. My long shot is Taylor Hendricks, rostered in less than 5% of leagues. This is purely speculative. After this trade to Memphis, the Memphis front court is absolutely decimated. Like you mentioned, Santi Aldama is their only true center. Gigi Jackson started at power forward. I like Gigi Jackson. He's had some flashes before. But Taylor Hendricks is a former lottery pick. He's a 6'9" guy that can shoot 40% from deep. There's a lot of talent in Taylor Hendricks. I feel like Memphis might give him a long runway here. And he's a type of guy that he can get stats in he can get big stats in every single category for you. So especially in category leagues, he can rack up defensive stats, hit those three balls. He's a big guy around the rim. So I think there's really high potential with Taylor Hendricks if he can start seeing minutes in the 20 here for Memphis.
Well, I agree. And Santi Aldama has a lot of skills, but he's not been a rugged rebounder, especially for a 7-footer. So a big body like Hendricks on the boards probably makes a lot more sense to pair with Aldama. All right, well, we ran a lot longer because of all the trade deadline news. So unfortunately, we're going to skip our DFS section. Also, as a nod to DFS expert Shannon McEwen, who's not with us tonight. We don't want to humiliate ourselves relative to Shannon's advice. So with that, what's next, sir?
I believe it is time for your old man rant.
Arg! Chicago, get your act together. I was lucky enough to live on Chicago's north side during the glorious Michael Jordan era. It was awesome. The Bulls were so good, even my wife watched the games. Yet, despite the Eastern Conference lacking competition, especially this season, the Bulls have been exactly, Kirien, I don't know how this is mathematically possible, but the Bulls have been exactly 18-21 through 39 games of the last 4 seasons. They've been stuck in the middle for 4 seasons in a row. How do you do that? And now with 10 guards and 47 second-round picks, they think they'll turn things around? Fire Arturas Karnisovas and bring in a real GM. Arg!
I couldn't agree with you more. The Bulls are very confusing. At least they made some moves this trade deadline. So at least they see they need to go in another direction, and they're at least doing that. Maybe that other direction is straight into the basement, but that's okay because being in the play-in tournament every year doesn't really mean anything to you.
Losing in the play-in tournament every year is even worse. Yeah,
yes, absolutely. And I won't even try to correct you on the pronunciation of the GM's name because I think you were close enough where I don't need to embarrass myself by doing that. we had Ricky on the Wednesday podcast this week, and he said Arturas's name about 7 times, and I was like, you've been practicing that because you said it with a lot of confidence.
My
all right,
really
appreciate all the viewers and all the questions, guys. Over 350 live viewers right now. Thanks for joining us on the Friday edition of the RotoWire Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Dabble. Please remember, use YouTube 15 to get 15% off your RotoWire subscription. Ken, take us out of here.
Let's go to Golden State, where the Warriors dumped Jonathan Kuminga and Buddy Hield for oft-injured but lovable Kristaps Porzingis. Steve Kerr said, quote, I don't think we would have made the trade if we didn't think Porzingis could be healthy and consistent in terms of being in the lineup. That's the plan. Porzingis has played in 17 games this season and hasn't topped 60 games since the 22-23 season with the Wizards. Attention passengers, this 2-car fantasy train wreck has hit the end of the line.